Okay, so last week we talked about prioritizing what's important when you step into the voting booth. And I said there's nothing more important in the voting booth than voting against the murder of innocent babies. And I told you I was going to give you an argument for pro-life. I'm going to break this down for you here because I want you guys to be better ambassadors when you have this discussion. First of all, it's a very sensitive topic. I get that. So many of us, men and women, have been affected by abortion that it's not anything that we want to be, in your face and judgmental about. But when we vote, we need to know why we're voting for who we are. And when we have conversations about why our number one voting priority is to vote for the candidate who is going to help save unborn human lives. When we tell people our position, we need to be able to articulate to them why when they ask us. So that's where today's mission brief is coming from. And so we're going to use an acronym called S.L.E.D to explain the anti-abortion position. You see, everyone who is pro-abortion, they're going to use one of four reasons why this unborn baby does not qualify as a valuable human person. They have to dehumanize this baby so that then they can justify its killing. And they have four common justifications as to why it's not a baby, it's a lump of tissue. And these four arguments that they use can be broken down into the acronym S.L.E.D. So the first argument that could be used is the S, and that is size. Basically, because it's so tiny. Maybe it's the size of a peanut. At just a few weeks into the pregnancy, it's so small, it's not a big deal to terminate it. That's another clinical term so that they don't have to say kill it, right? They don't want to say kill a human baby. They want to say terminate the fetus. So we've got to be aware of what's going on here. You're just changing all the words so that it sounds more palatable. But size is the first one. And the way you speak to this point is, well, listen, we don't base value of humans on the size of them, do we? Is a 6 foot tall person more valuable than a 4 foot tall person? Are we basing human value and personhood on size? You can see with those questions right there, that argument instantly falls flat. Are little people less valuable than tall people? Are children less valuable than adults? Absolutely not. There's the S. And by asking those key questions, we just destroyed their first argument. Their second one is the L, level of development. And this one will say that the unborn fetus is not fully developed. It's not yet fully developed. Therefore, it's okay to terminate it. Well, hold on. We're not going to kill a human baby because they are not fully developed, would we? Because, even a 3-year-old, their skull up here is not fully developed. So would it be okay to kill a 3-year-old because they're not fully developed either? See, we're asking questions that expose the logical flaws in their argument. In fact, the prefrontal cortex of the brain, where we have our executive functioning, it doesn't finish developing until age 25. So if you're going to use the logic that it's okay to kill a baby because it's not fully developed, then if we carried that logic out, it would be okay to kill people up until age 24 because their brain's not fully developed. You see, a girl who's 4 years old, their reproductive system is not fully developed. Is it okay to kill a 4-year-old girl because she's not fully developed? Of course not. Level of development, that's the L. The third one, environment. The E is environment. Some people will argue that it's okay because it's in a womb. It's in a different location. Okay, well, being in a different location or a different environment does not disqualify a human person from having value. And we can see this illustrated with astronauts. When they leave this Earth and go into space, they become no less valuable. When scuba divers go deep under the ocean, they are no less valuable. A person's environment does not dictate their value. In fact, if that were the case, there would have to be something extraordinarily magical for them to explain about how a 7-inch trip through a birth canal turned a completely valueless lump of cells into a valuable living human person by traveling 7 inches down the birth canal. So that's E, the environment. And we've defeated that argument. Their fourth and final one is the D in S.L.E.D, which stands for degree of dependency. This is actually the one that I think I hear the most. And they will say things like, the baby is not viable outside of the womb. They are not dependent yet. They are completely dependent on the mother. Well, let's think about that one for a second, too. After they're born, are they still dependent on the mother? Of course they are. They're still dependent for everything. For years, they're still dependent. So if we're going to say, well, we can kill an unborn baby because of its level of dependency on the mother, well, then you would have to use that same logic to justify killing a 6-month-old because it's still just as dependent on the mother. In fact, I've got teenagers in my house, and they're still not independent, right? They still would probably starve if we didn't stock the fridge. So level of dependency, again, has nothing to do with determining value and worth of a human. I want to put this into a little bit of historical context. This is an argument about discrimination. When we talk about the pro-life argument, or when we talk about the pro-choice or pro-abortion argument, what we're really doing is we're talking about discrimination. You see, African Americans were discriminated against based on their color of their skin. It was argued that they were less valuable, that they were not fully human, and they could be enslaved. Jewish people were told the same thing, that because of their ethnicity, they were not fully valuable human beings, and thus they could be exterminated, right? Again, we see that clinical use of a new word. They're not murdering, they're exterminating, they're terminating, right? Same wording from abortion. And now we're seeing the same thing done with babies. The truth is, a human life is of value regardless of its size, its level of dependency, its environment, its degree of dependency, its skin color, its size, or its race or ethnicity. None of those things dictate value. And we have to be the vanguards at the front of this charge. As men, as leaders, we cannot allow culture to move us to being okay with the killing of babies. I've talked in the past about comparing abortion to the child sacrifices to the gods of Molech and Baal in the Old Testament. I believe this is 100% accurate. God destroys civilizations who kill their babies. All human life is made in the image of God. It's all valuable. It's all worth defending. It's worth protecting. When you go into the voting booth, remember that. And check out our podcast on men and abortion to hear specifically on how abortion affects the dads.